In the last 4 decades, no one has become president without first winning the New Hampshire primary. But tomorrow's results from New Hampshire may raise more questions than they answer. Will George Bush avoid being embarrassed by conservative challenger Pat Buchanan? And could a loss by Bill Clinton throw the Democratic race wide open? Tonight, will the first big test in the run for the White House really settle anything?
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Chris Wallace.
After months of polling, of the media naming frontrunners and shaping expectations, tomorrow the voters finally get into the act. In the first real contest of this presidential race, the people of New Hampshire will finally tell us, in the only way that counts, what they think of the candidates. But with one last night before the voting starts, there is, as you might expect, one last poll. The Boston Globe and station WBZ surveyed about 1,000 voters in each party today. And here are the results. On the Republican side, President Bush leads with 53%. Pat Buchanan has 31%. That's up 5 points in the last 2 days. 17% are either undecided or for other candidates. On the Democratic side, the race is holding steady, with Paul Tsongas at 32%, Bill Clinton at 21%, and all the others far behind. A Cuomo write-in gets only 5%. If those figures hold up, a primary that was supposed to help settle both races early may do exactly the opposite, ensuring drawn-out campaigns in both parties that may cause problems for the eventual winners. But as Nightline's Jeff Greenfield reports tonight from New Hampshire, in this primary, going against the conventional wisdom is business as usual.
It looks like a typical New Hampshire primary season. Candidates looking for voters in a sea of reporters. The last TV debate, this one so painfully earnest, you almost expected a question on the metric system or Esperanto.
Let's within the next 3 to 5 years replace every light bulb in America with a high-efficiency light bulb.
The saturation commercials that all seem to blend into one seamless story of pluck and luck.
He's the son of a coal miner, college on an ROTC scholarship.
He worked his way through Georgetown and Yale Law School, became a Rhodes Scholar.
A decorated war veteran. No one can question his patriotism.
In 1970, he became California Secretary of State. 4 years later, he was elected governor.
They said he couldn't win, this kid from an old mill town.
But this year, something is different in New Hampshire. This year, this state, long criticized for being too small, too white, too conservative, too unrepresentative to have such political clout, is reflecting with painful clarity the national dilemmas that afflict both political parties.
Thank you, sir. Who's this guy?
This isn't the first time an incumbent president has been challenged in New Hampshire. That tradition is as old as the primary itself. But President Bush is facing embarrassment here for one fundamental reason: the collapse of one of the strongest state economies in the country to one of the worst.
We are here to take away this nomination and take our country back in November. And with your help, I think we can do it.
This is what's given Pat Buchanan's campaign its resonance. But beyond New Hampshire is the fact that nationally, Bush and the Republicans have lost control of the issues that have driven them to 3 straight presidential victories. Economic growth had disappeared under Carter, had been strong when Reagan and Bush won in '84 and '88. Growth numbers now are anemic at best.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
The tax issue has, at least temporarily, been lost to Bush, as his Republican challenger hammers at him on the airwaves.
We need a middle American rebellion or revolution against both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Once potent foreign policy and defense issues have become far less important with the end of the Cold War. But most ominously, the optimism of the Reagan years has vanished.
The mood of the country is as pessimistic today as it's been since 1979. 78% of Americans say the country's seriously gotten off on the wrong track.
Bush is obviously paying a price here. Nobody a year ago thought Pat Buchanan or anybody else was going to challenge Bush and make him come up here and apologize, in effect, to the voters of New Hampshire.
This bad news should have been good news for Democrats. Their candidates have heard wrenching tales of hardship no campaign speeches can match.
But I had to go to my church and ask them to give me something to eat. And I've never had to do that before, ever. And it killed me.
Really sorry. For a time, Governor Bill Clinton seemed to fit this mood perfectly. to offer a blend of competence and compassion that propelled him to a big lead here in New Hampshire and led to a sense that he would become the presumptive nominee by spring. That lead and that assumption foundered on a barrage of character questions.
That's what people say now.
No, that's not what people say now. Graduate.
Oh, you mean when I was in England first year?
I myself have been very bothered by the press's willingness to make Bill Clinton the front runner and talk about what a great front runner he was very early on, before a single vote had been cast. And I think that it probably would have been better if we had not done that.
But with the emergence of Paul Tsongas as the likely primary winner, that idea of a quick consensus Democratic nominee has all but vanished.
I think if Tsongas wins, there's going to be the questions of can he win anywhere else. I just don't see any other candidate with the base, with the money, with the calendar to wrap it up.
A long campaign is just what Democrats do not want, especially because that would raise the specter of another fight for the party's soul. Bill Clinton had already rattled some liberals with his attacks on welfare dependency and his emphasis on middle-class appeals. Paul Tsongas is, if anything, more of a heretic. He's been fighting the Democratic liberal orthodoxy for more than a decade.
The instinct of the Democrats, the instinct is basically anti-business. I told the story when I was a congressman. You walk on the House floor and people say vote no here. Why? Because it's pro-business. And ultimately, when the economy becomes the issue and people view Democrats as not knowing how to bring the economy back.
This is exactly the kind of theme that concerns longtime Democrats like Chris Edley, who was issues director for Michael Dukakis.
It may be that our strategy has been too much to try to focus on Reagan Democrats rather than focus on energizing our base. I'm very concerned about this emphasis on the middle class because it seems to me they're running away from the soul of the Democratic Party, and it's dangerous.
So here's what New Hampshire may offer the nation if the expected happens tomorrow. A strong Buchanan showing means a sustained primary challenge to an incumbent Republican president. A Tsongas victory by any substantial margin means a wide-open race for the nomination and further calls for new candidates. But, of course, when was the last time New Hampshire voters did the expected, Chris? All right, Jeff, give us your upset special. If there is a surprise tomorrow, what will it be?
Well, I'm not going to give you my upset special because if I could predict the future, I wouldn't have to work for a living. But the thing to look at is that the second biggest block of voters in New Hampshire, after Republicans, are independents. And they can get up tomorrow morning and vote in either primary. And polling numbers tend not to be able to measure independents because they don't know where they're going to vote. That could swing this election measurably. The second thing to keep an eye out for is whether the write-in sentiment, particularly from Mario Cuomo, is strong enough to beat one of the 5 major Democratic candidates. Those would be the 2 expected unexpecteds or things to watch.
All right, given the fact that I'm going to ask you another impossible question now, given the fact that they haven't been polled, any gut feeling, very briefly, as to how the independents might break tomorrow?
I came up here a month ago and throwing out all polls, found one thing. The state of the New Hampshire economy, the fall from 1988 to now, is the dominant, perhaps the only thing on people's minds. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago, is the question voters go to the polls tomorrow to answer. Buchanan is going to do very well. There you have it. There's my, you got me to make a prediction.
All right, Jeff, we'll be back with you in just a moment. And we'll be joined then by a former political advisor to President Reagan and by a political pollster who has been surveying voters in New Hampshire.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by the Diamond Anniversary Band.
I was born 3 billion years ago of fire and light. Released from the earth, I am unlike any other. I have survived desert winds, drifted down ancient rivers. Who am I? The eternal gift of love between man and woman. I am a diamond. I am forever.
How many? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
It doesn't get any better than this until you call for help.
Call 373-8700 for a free confidential consultation. The Harbors. You have a device in your home that fights the pain alcohol and drugs inflict on your family. Use it. Call 373-8700 for a free confidential consultation. The Harbors.
Another Home Depot certified advantage. Free design service. Come to Home Depot for professional decorating advice, from coordinating colors to selecting products, and you'll always find the best brands, like Glidden Evermore paint. We have color after color of Glidden interior and exterior paint. We'll even mix hundreds of custom colors absolutely free.
Home Depot, Home Depot. Low prices are just the beginning.
The New Hampshire primary. David Brinkley, Peter Jennings. Play-by-play of the race, the runners, the results. Watch ABC News special coverage Tuesday.
Joining us now from Indianapolis is Mitch Daniels, a former advisor to President Reagan and a longtime Republican political strategist. And from Boston, Jerry Chervinsky, who has been polling New Hampshire voters for the Boston Globe and WBZ-TV for the past 2 months. And Mr. Chervinsky, let me start with you since you've got the numbers. In your poll, there has been some movement towards Patrick Buchanan. I guess it's 5 points in the last 2 days. What's working for him or against Bush?
By and large, what's working is what's working against President Bush. Voters in New Hampshire are very discouraged about their economy. They hold the president responsible not only for letting it happen, but for not doing very much early on to make things better. So Buchanan gains because Bush loses is really how it works.
All right, you have 17% in this latest poll, either undecided or for other candidates. If they start to break to one of the top two, who is it going to help and who's it going to hurt?
Well, probably they're going to break toward Buchanan because, after all, voters know President Bush far better than they know Pat Buchanan. Many voters view Buchanan as unfavorably as they do favorably, but still they view him as a protest vote. So it's likely that they would vote for Buchanan rather than for Bush.
All right, Jeff Greenfield, I'm going to ask you to put on your official pundit's hat and answer before the fact, how well, in a specific number, does Buchanan have to do? What's the threshold for him? How well does he have to do to embarrass President Bush and to stay a factor in this race?
Well, they kept moving the bar up, as in a high jump, and I'd say now that 30 to 35% is when the murmurs begin to start. 40% becomes a gee whiz total, as it's called. Actually, the words are somewhat more Anglo-Saxon than that, but it's a family show after all. But, I mean, I think right now the only problem Buchanan has is that he has been seen as coming on so strongly that this mindless and endless expectation game could keep shifting upward. My hunch, and that's what it is that whatever the number is, he will hit or pass it by tomorrow night. Of course, then the question is, so what happens after that? But we'll get into that later.
Mr. Daniels, whatever happens tomorrow, a lot of people are saying that the Bush political operation has not worked well in New Hampshire, that he has failed to diffuse the economic anger in that state, that he has failed to put Buchanan away. What's gone wrong with the White House operation?
I'm not sure anything's gone wrong. I think that the president, who does take the long view, as do his advisors, has made a calculated decision that to keep his eye on November. For example, he has declined, against some advice, I suppose, to become negative about Pat Buchanan, probably at the cost of a few points.
I was going to say, is that a mistake not to try to go for the kill here in New Hampshire?
I think probably not. The president has both the luxury and I think the wisdom to take the long view and keep his eyes on the real prize.
On the other side, how effectively has Pat Buchanan played his cards in New Hampshire?
I think Pat's played well in the one sandbox that's well suited to him. The day I heard he was going to run, I thought he'd get at minimum 30%. And with the deck stacked as it is for him, I don't know how he could fail to do that or better tomorrow. He spent $2 million. He has the Manchester Union leader squarely in his corner. He's been in the state every day but 3 for the last several months, whereas the president's only been able to get there for, I believe, 4 days total. And in addition, Pat has the entire Democratic flock joining him and beating on the president every single day. So I don't think a showing in the 30s is particularly surprising. And as Jeff has already suggested, the real question for Pat is where else in the world does he go to enjoy any success at all.
All right, Jeff, that was the question you wanted to be asked, and I'll serve it up to you. Beyond the brief embarrassment that it causes George Bush this week if Buchanan does well, how much trouble can he make for the incumbent president down the road? Everyone assumes, I think everyone is certain, that Bush is going to end up with this nomination. So what is the Buchanan factor down the road?
Well, you know, it's useful for all of us to remind ourselves that politics is not static, it's dynamic. And a really powerful showing up here, not that it threatens Bush's nomination, it begins to change the dynamic. For instance, the next step, the next place Buchanan will go is Georgia in 2 weeks. Georgia has a 3.9% unemployment rate, not a 7% unemployment rate. But the question is whether the showing of some vulnerability on the part of the president opens other doors for Buchanan, whether there are other issues that play in Georgia, even if the economy doesn't. And that's what we don't know. Not whether Buchanan can win. I agree, that's probably fantasy right now, it is. But whether he can sustain a primary challenge to the president that pummels him, that forces him to turn to the right flank more than he'd want, that sustains Buchanan all the way to California, where the Republican Party is bitterly divided between conservatives and moderates. That's the danger the president faces, not a challenge to his actual renomination. And I don't think we can dismiss that right now.
Mr. Daniels, briefly, if you were advising the president after Tuesday, what should he do next?
He should indicate that he's gotten a message. He should acknowledge that a protest vote of some size has been cast. And I think then he should begin to develop themes more friendly to him. As he moves to the South, his leadership, his unquestioned leadership in foreign policy and in Desert Storm and so forth will come into play. And I think he ought to begin to develop more fully the theme that in this world, we'll only have a strong economy if we have a skilled foreign policy, that we don't get richer unless the rest of the world does, and that he uniquely is equipped to lead America in that era.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. And when we return, we'll look at the other race, and we'll be joined by a leading Democratic strategist who worked in the last 3 presidential campaigns.
I'm a nurse, and I'm a nurse first, and I'm an Aetna employee second. The care is first. You know, is that patient being handled appropriately? I would hope that we would all care about patients the way we would ourselves or our own family members. And that's the way I see it. That, you know, that's my job.
Did you know the cost of 2 9-page fax transmissions from these Philadelphia newspapers to Chicago may surprise you?
I got an exclusive interview
With AT&T Pro Watts, your business can't get a more accurate way to send a fax.
Talks a lot.
And our prices are extremely competitive. Even though the other company would like you to believe, they always save you lots of money.
Wait a minute. That's news to me. Can I quote you on that?
AT&T Pro Watts, another AT&T advantage.
Rent what you need at All Rent & Co.
Hey, I don't have any credit, but I got all this from All Rent Co. I can just rent or rent-own.
Get yours now. Rent to own this 20-inch diagonal remote control color TV or this cable-ready VCR for only $8.99 per week.
Rent-own worked for me. It'll work for you.
You can rent what you need at All Rent & Co. The only way to go.
Drug addiction takes many forms, and whatever the form, it can be a subtle killer. It can destroy your health, your family, your career. So if the subtlety of drug addiction or alcohol are becoming the focus of your life, call the Baptist Hospital Drug and Alcohol Recovery Center now. We offer help for today and a plan for life. Call 329-7777.
Well, last year my husband dragged me and the kids to the Thunder Nationals. It was a ball. We're going back.
Have you ever been to one of these things? It's incredible. These trucks fly.
The Valvoline Thunder National, monster trucks, wild stunts, and more. This Friday and Saturday at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. $2 discount coupons at participating Valvoline retailers. Buy a case of Valvoline and get a free Saturday pit pass.
She accused Mike Tyson of rape and he was convicted. Now the young woman tells us her story of what happened that night in an exclusive interview on 2020 Friday.
Tomorrow, join us again from New Hampshire, where opinions and pollsters abound. And if they don't get a vote, they'll get a laugh. The Muppets on Good Morning America.
Tuesday.
Joining us now from Boston is John Sasso, a Democratic consultant who played a role in the presidential campaigns of Michael Dukakis in 1988, Walter Mondale in 1984, and Ted Kennedy in 1980. And Jerry Chervinsky, let's start with you again since you've got the late numbers. On the Democratic side, you show the race holding very steady with Tsongas leading Clinton by 11 points. Is there any movement percolating behind those numbers?
Not really. The race has remained about the same for the last 4 days now. People seem to have settled on Paul Tsongas in terms of being comfortable with him, thinking that he is the one really telling them the truth and with a message on the economy, and that's what they want to hear, so they say they'll vote for him.
And what happened to Clinton? Was it pure and simple, the character issue, both in terms of fidelity and the draft issue?
By and large, it was the character issue. The Jennifer Flowers stories hurt him, although not fatally. The problem was when the Vietnam story came on top of that, people really questioned whether he was being truthful with them. And in New Hampshire, they really want the candidate to level with them. And once those doubts got in their mind, they moved away from Clinton towards Tsongas, who they view as the real truthful, honest candidate.
Now, the Cuomo write-in seems to be going nowhere, only 5%. Could you be surprised on that tomorrow?
Well, I doubt it. You know, the truth is in New Hampshire, more voters view Mario Cuomo unfavorably than view him favorably. The state's Democrats are not liberal. They view Cuomo very much as a liberal, and he's really not the kind of politician in tune with New Hampshire's thinking.
Mr. Sasso, Jeff Greenfield suggested earlier that if those numbers hold up, it's bad news for the Democrats, that it ensures a long, drawn-out race. Are the Democrats in the process of self-destructing again?
I don't think so at all, Chris. I think the Democratic Party has never been more together. You saw last night in the debate, all the candidates made a very strong and fundamental case for change at a time that the country wants change. In your lead-in, you mentioned that 77% of the country feels that we're headed in the wrong direction. I think that's a terrific opportunity for the Democratic Party.
Jeff Greenfield, has Mr. Sasso persuaded you that things are just coming up roses for the Democrats here in New Hampshire?
No, because the Democrats have an endemic problem, and it's exemplified by Paul Tsongas, who's run a spectacular campaign here. But I want to tell you a quick story about a kid named Willie Mays, who came up to the New York Giants in the early 50s, and at the end of a pennant race made a spectacular catch, wheeled 360 degrees, threw a strike to home plate, and threw out the Dodger who was trying to score. And when the sports writers asked Brooklyn Dodger manager Charlie Dressen about that play, you know what Dressen said? He said, "Let's see him do it again." And that's Paul Tsongas' problem. If he wins here, he's going to have to do it again and again. And my point is, this is going to be a long march. It is a campaign, as I tried to point out in the piece, where structurally the Republicans have some very serious problems on issues that they've controlled for a dozen years. But the capacity of the Democrats to get together and fight this fight, I think, very much remains to be seen.
Mr. Chervinsky, some people are saying that what's really happened in New Hampshire is that after weeks of campaigning, that the voters have looked at all of these candidates and don't see any of them as president, and so they ended up with their local favorite Tsongas. From your polling, are voters in New Hampshire satisfied with this field of Democrats?
You know, we've asked that question recently, Chris, and what happens is about a quarter say they're very satisfied with the candidates, but basically half of the electorate wishes there were a better field running. I would make the point on Paul Tsongas that even though he's from a neighboring state and the people in New Hampshire may have known him, he has worked hard to win their vote. They have liked him and respected him over the years, but they didn't really expect to vote for him. He earned their vote, really, by and large, through a lot of hard work and through reaching them on the issues regarding the economy.
Mr. Sasso, does it look like the results tomorrow are a mandate for another Democrat to get into this race?
No, not necessarily. The race is open and anyone can get in at any time, of course, but I think the nominee is going to be picked from this field, and it seems like there's a very good chance for the Democrats this time around. I notice for the first time a majority of Americans feel that their children's lives will not be as good as their own. When that's the case, something very fundamentally American is at question in this country, and that's where the opportunity lies. Also, we go through this all the time, Chris, before we pick a nominee. And once someone starts winning a few primaries, it's amazing how much stature and standing they acquire.
Let me ask you a question
Sure.
as a political technician about what you've already said. Practically speaking, is it too late for another candidate to get in the race?
Well, it's late. There's no question that once people start voting tomorrow, we move to Super Tuesday and on to some of the other states, it's late, and I think in all likelihood the nominee is going to be picked from this field. Jerry pointed out some poll numbers. I noticed one in a poll that he did the other day that 3 of these candidates, Senator Kerry, Governor Clinton, and Paul Tsongas, are all beating President Bush in New Hampshire as of last week. And this is a state that has looked at these candidates very closely and has decided, a very Republican state, I might add, that at least 3 of the candidates, and who knows, that maybe the other 2 very soon have an excellent chance to beat the president. So I think there's quite a good opportunity for us here.
Jeff Greenfield, we have less than a minute left. John Sasso seems to be playing down the practicality of a late Democratic entry into the race. How seriously do you take that scenario of a late entry?
Unless someone comes in the next 48 hours, he's already missed the filing deadlines for well over half the delegates. The only scenario then that works is a massive late rush to sweep the late primaries and to build some kind of clarion call among Democratic Party insiders, of whom there are virtually none left. And that's part of the trap. If you've got a dissatisfied Democratic electorate, and logistically it's very difficult for a late entry, it creates a problem. And I still maintain that George Bush's greatest strength going into 1992 is that he gets to run against the Democrats. That's a case that can be rebutted, but as of now, it hasn't been done.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank all 4 of you for joining us tonight. If we have this much to talk about before the primaries, just think how much we'll have to discuss on Wednesday night. Thanks again. And we'll be back in a moment.
You're about to see how Goodyear is changing all-season driving right before your eyes. Introducing AquaTread, only from Goodyear. AquaTread's advanced design channels water out of your way for dependable all-season traction, especially in the rain when you may need it most. AquaTread, the newest reason why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
I'm alive. Howard Weber.
I'm alive. Jessica Weber.
For a free list of cars with airbags, see your Allstate agent.
Have you had your V8 today? Did you know that V8 juice has less than half the calories of that apple?
Wow.
Did you know that V8 has more vitamins A and C than that tossed salad?
Wow.
And did you know that V8 is 100% vegetable juice, so it has no fat, unlike that low-fat yogurt?
Wow.
So how do you feel now that you know these things?
Wow. I gotta have a V8.
V8 is a nutritious blend of 8 vegetable juices that taste terrific. Have you had your V8 today?
I'm alive. William Hines. I'm alive. Michael Hines.
For a free list of cars with airbags, see your Allstate agent.
Sometimes, in order to re-enter your world, you may need to leave it first.
Later on most of these stations, an interview with Democratic presidential contender Bill Clinton on ABC's World News Now. And tomorrow night, an ABC News special on the New Hampshire primary, anchored by Peter Jennings and David Brinkley. That's beginning at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Chris Wallace in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
If you wish a videocassette version of Nightline, the cost is $14.98 plus $3.95 shipping and handling.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Tuesday.
I think of Jeff morning, noon, and night.
It's a full count for a rookie on the road.
Want to dance with someone not like anyone you've ever met before?
Judy is good luck.
I'm engaged.
You're still a bachelor.
I haven't taken any vows yet.
Homefront, Tuesday at 10, 9 Central.
Don't!